We're now in Module 4, Unit 3, still in Stage 2 of the joint design of the project idea. We're now going to look at the different and somewhat specific types of outputs that we often encounter in exchange of experience type projects. Sometimes people have genuine difficulty visioning the kind of output appropriate to transnational cooperation projects. And it's partly because they forget that these projects are not going to change the world. They're not going to result in some big investment. In that sense, they're soft or intangible. What they're going to do is follow a logic of exchange and knowledge development, knowledge creation and learning. And therefore the outputs will follow a learning logic. In other words, they're going to create knowledge, they'll be based on knowledge, and all of this knowledge and know-how in the end should allow us to do something different or something better that we're already doing. Now, this particular problem that we're addressing here is in our experience a fairly acute problem. We see examples, for example, in IT projects where IT specialists simply see the technology as the end of the project, the output, and they seem to forget that it's entirely useless unless it benefits some way someone else. We even see municipalities or county councils or other public administrations focusing on a document as an output. That's to say, a report or study or something like that. But they seem to forget sometimes that it is what is in this report and what will follow on from the report that is of real value. And in certain transnational cooperations like Leonardo, we can even see educationalists or people coming from a training and human resource background sometimes failing to see beyond the method of the lesson, beyond the particular methodology. They forget that what really matters is that someone will actually apply it and benefit from it, and that as a result there will be positive change. In other words, in all these situations we must see beyond the output when we choose an output. Now, when we see beyond the output and when we see the output, we must be thinking in these projects of a learning logic, and therefore the outputs are normally going to conform to that kind of paradigm. And therefore typically the kind of outputs in many of these projects will be something like a methodology created, a methodology adapted and applied to each partner, a comparative study completed identifying lessons for all partners and each partner, a training program developed and piloted, an already existing or an already developed training program improved, customized and applied, an accreditation system created, piloted or transferred, a system developed, an already developed system transferred and applied more widely. Now, these may not be earth-shattering outputs. They're not like investment projects in the sense of 10 kilometers of road. They're not even widespread training programs according to which 5,000 people are trained. But the outputs are all the same: concrete, identifiable, and they're verifiable. In other words, if I was an evaluator, I could go and verify whether or not they exist. I could examine them, I could look at them, and I could even go beyond the output and see the results or the use to which they're being put. They're also all the outcome of a process of joint work or development and transfer between partners. And this realistically is what we expect from transnational cooperation. Now, we now want to address a question about the attainability of outputs in these kind of projects. This is a key issue for transnational cooperation. The truth is we do want real transfer beyond the immediate project actors and to the publics or target groups they serve. But it's equally true that not all projects may be able to go the full distance. In this respect, not all projects will have the same level of ambition. And that's partly because a number of projects start from a much weaker base. They start from further back. And the important thing in a project is that we cover a good distance and that we come up with concrete and tangible and verifiable outputs which are pointing towards results understood as benefits. That's important, but we've got to be reasonable in a particular situation with regard to how that is possible. So we're going to look here at two examples, and really they are two projects, Project A and Project A+. And we understand Project A+ as a kind of progression on Project A. In other words, its starting point is different, further ahead, and its finishing point will correspondingly be further ahead. We could consider A+ often to be a kind of second generation or successor project to Project A. But both of them in their own right would be fundable. So let's just have a little look at them now. In Project A, the partners are exercised by the reality that there is a gap in provision of training for a certain kind of methodology. And their response is to work together to develop the appropriate methodology to meet that gap. The output will be the methodology developed, and they're going to pilot it at some time afterwards. So realistically in this project, the finishing point is we've got a methodology which is developed. The understanding is that at that point there is no further resources, no more time, no more money. Now Project A+, we imagine it to have a starting point which is more like the finishing point of Project A. Project A+ takes an existing first generation methodology which the partners have previously developed. This is a methodology which requires extension, further piloting, some refinement, deepening, wider application, and what they really want to get to is more extensive mainstreaming. So the project activities are going to be about refining the methodology is in function of wider target groups, and especially target groups from several countries, including countries not involved in the original development of the methodology. And the output, it's a second generation methodology which is designed and piloted, and the result is that the methodology will be mainstreamed. So that's a more ambitious result, but it's more ambitious and it's possible largely because in the end we start further ahead of Project A. So that's what we see here. Project A, to resume, the starting point is further back than Project A+. There is, however, a clear logic in this project, but the reality is, and we say it again, we start further back, and that means we cannot advance as far within the project duration and with the project resources as would be possible in Project A+. Project A+ builds on something already created. The partners aim higher. They want to extend and mainstream a methodology. A project like A+, one that's talking about mainstreaming something, realistically will only be possible if the core technology, methodology or whatever already exists somehow. Now, in both cases, if we look at these, we can see a common project logic and a common logic of a learning project. As to say, there is the logic of learning and transfer. Knowledge or know-how is brought into the project, it is developed further through refinement, testing, piloting, and in the end there is a result in terms of people benefiting from this. There's internal transfer among the partners and the project team. In the end, both have the same internal logic as a learning project, as an exchange project, but what really differentiates them especially is the starting and finishing points.